Oh, daddy. So, a lot of you guys got really upset over the fact that I said Kirk is better than Baker Mayfield in yesterday's video. And I mean, a lot of you guys got mad at that. Which is fine, I don't mind a verbal spar, but I got an email this morning. You're so fucking stupid, dude. I used to be a fan, but you're so biased towards Kirk Cousins, I can't stand to watch anymore. He's worse than Baker. He will never be as good as Baker. You Viking ass kisser. Okay, let's look at Baker really quick. Okay, now how about Kirk? Baker? Kirk. I'm sorry, guys, but the numbers just back this one up for me. And I have yet to hear one reason why Baker is better other than, but they went to the playoffs and the Vikings didn't make it. Well, that means Baker Mayfield is better than any other quarterback who didn't make it as far as he did in the postseason, dude. You guys are dumb. I don't mind verbal spars, that's the fun of the job, but when people come at me without any explanation other than the fact that they just want to yell at me, that's Bush League, guys, and I can tell you're 10 years old just by how you type. But the email was funny. That made me laugh really hard because it's like, dude, I really ruined someone's day by just saying a quarterback is better than another quarterback. I don't know what to say, man. If you don't like my opinions or you don't like me, then just don't watch. Alright, what is up guys and welcome back to another video. So yesterday's video was a this or that about Baker Mayfield. We won't talk about that video. But that video did get me thinking about something, and it's a video idea that I've had for a while and that I kind of just forgot about. Today I'm going to be giving you guys 10 insanely underrated players in the NFL. At least in my eyes. And when I say underrated, I'm talking about those guys who are continuously putting up the work and they're just never getting the recognition for it. There's a lot of players like that in the league, by the way. This is only 10 of them. And honorable mention really quick, Derek Carr will not be on this list because I've just talked way too much about him recently. You guys know that I think he's underrated. You guys know that he's underrated. Derek Carr knows that he's underrated. We don't need to talk anymore about Derek Carr, but we can move on to the list. Right after I plug G Fuel, because if you guys don't use code WyattzWorld on gfuel.com, then you're not saving yourself a discount on any of the G Fuel products. Okay, so we'll start off the list with Will Fuller. Now, I know he got in trouble last year for PEDs or steroids or whatever it was. He claims it was an accident. Okay, I don't believe that. Any athlete who takes roids, they're taking roids, okay? But it doesn't hide the fact that Will Fuller has just always been really good outside of his hamstring. Like seriously, you guys can go look up his box scores. Even when he was alongside DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller was extremely productive and extremely useful as long as his hamstring stayed intact. Honestly, Will Fuller is just like a worse D-Hop. He's fast, he's got a great jump ball, he's great at running his routes. He's just not as good as DeAndre Hopkins at those things, but I would still say Will Fuller is better than half of the league. He went to the Miami Dolphins now, so I'm very curious to see how Tua pans out, which is going to be interesting because if Tua doesn't pan out, they don't have any options. They don't have Fitz anymore. But if Tua actually does come on the field and he has his head straight and he's got his stuff together, you've got Devontae Parker, you've got Mike Gesicki, you've got Will Fuller, and you've got Myles Gaskin, man, you got some good weapons. Will Fuller is underrated. Alright, up next on this list, we kinda recently talked about this guy too, but Robert Woods. The problem with Robert Woods is that this guy just is literally never even mentioned. Like, I just don't get it with Robert Woods. The guy shows up, he gets 1,000 yards and about 6 touchdowns a year. Why is this man a ghost? Here's a little example for you. Robert Woods had a much better year than Jarvis Landry did. And Robert Woods outperformed him with Jared Goff throwing him the football as well as having Cooper Kupp running down the same field. And it's funny because Robert Woods is by no means the best at anything in the league. He is just very, very, much like Will Fuller, very solid all around. But I don't think Robert Woods has as big of an injury problem, and I don't think he's shooting syringes into his arm in his free time either. This guy used to be in Buffalo. Honestly, I didn't get to see a whole lot of him there. I did get to see a little bit, but I really wish he would have just stuck around. In my book, Robert Woods is the definition of good old reliable. You might have better options, but Robert Woods is always going to be there when you need him. Alright, up next we have David Montgomery. You guys want to hear my story with David Montgomery? I'll tell you exactly how I found out about this guy. I don't know where he went to school. I want to say it was Iowa or Iowa State, one of those two. Got drafted in like a mid-round, I think. Went to the Chicago Bears, who I can't stand. I automatically just threw this guy in the trash. I said the hell with David Montgomery. I hate him. He's garbage. Like, I didn't even pay attention to him at all his rookie year. Honestly, I think he was still splitting with like Tariq Cohen or something at the time. But it wasn't until this last fantasy draft where I looked up David Montgomery's numbers and I was like, okay, this guy might actually be okay. This entire year happened, David Montgomery was hardly ever talked about. Little does anybody know, guys, he was a top 8 running back in the NFL this year. He was tied for 5th with the most rushing yards. He had 8 rushing touchdowns. He had a bunch of receiving yards and a couple of receiving touchdowns. But unfortunately for David Montgomery, well, it might not be so unfortunate going forward now that they got Justin Fields, but he plays on the Chicago Bears. He's had to deal with Matt Nagy calling the plays. He's had to deal with Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles alternating every other day, even though David Montgomery is a running back, it doesn't help his situation. Basically, this guy has been a diamond who has been just thrown into a dumpster and he can't get out. Justin Fields, you better save David Montgomery and Allen Robinson. Alright, and up next we're gonna go back to the Roberts, to Robert Tonyan. There is a lot of people who legitimately have no idea who this is. I put him as one of my top 5 tight ends, and there were people screaming at me in the comments being like, I've never even heard of Robert Tonyan before. Also in 2020, Robert Tonyan tied with Travis Kelce catching more touchdowns than any other tight end in the league. Robert Tonyan is Aaron Rodgers. Well, was Aaron... I don't know the situation there. He is? Is Aaron Rodgers still there? Robert Tonyan is the safe house for Aaron Rodgers. If Devontae Adams is covered, if Lazard is covered, if Aaron Jones is covered, then he is going to throw it to Tonyan, and Tonyan is always going to snatch that out of the air. And for those who still don't really know who Robert Tonyan is, this guy is a lot like George Kittle. Matter of fact, I think he's really good friends with George Kittle. They have the same play style, they have the same goofy personality. I'm pretty sure they're about the same size. Moving forward in Green Bay, with or without Aaron Rodgers, I would actually say without Aaron Rodgers, Tonyan's going to get a little bit more action, but only time will tell. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and say, Robert Tonyan, you're underrated. And up next on the list is Joe Mixon. I have him on here because people just simply forget how good he actually is. Okay, it bothers me that people look at Joe Mixon and they don't see him on the same level as Saquon, they don't see him on the same level as Aaron Jones, Zeke, any of those guys. Like, people just love to hate on Joe Mixon or something. I don't know what the real issue with him is. 2018 and 2019, Joe Mixon had back-to-back 1,100-yard seasons. Absolutely would have done it in 2020 if he would have had an O-line, but he didn't, so he got hurt just like Burrow. People think I'm nuts for this. If you're in a PPR league, Joe Mixon's a late first-round pick this year. This guy single-handedly possesses some of the most talent out of anybody in this football league. I swear to you, if he gets that O-line he needs and Joe Burrow gets the development that he needs, Joe Mixon could work his way into the top 5. And that'll be called The Joe Show. Oh, that was the worst joke I've ever made. Alright, and up next we have Brandon Cooks. Dude, there are some people out there who legitimately forgot he was even in the league. Okay, for one, Brandon Cooks is on like an enormously big contract. I did not know that. 4 to 5 years for $80 million or something ridiculous like that. I want to say that contract was set up by the Rams, but I can't remember. He played at New England and I think the Saints before that. But Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods are the same person. Quiet, they're good workers, they're going to show up, they're going to get you 1,000 yards, they're going to get you 8 touchdowns, and they're going to go home. Why are players like this not talked about more? You have a team with 3 Robert Woods or a team with 1 Tyreek Hill. The team with 3 Robert Woods is going to be a hell of a lot better than the team with 1 Tyreek. Like, I can't get this stressed out anymore. Players who aren't elite still deserve the spotlight if they're good. Brandon Cooks, another example, always put up good numbers. He's not a cancer to have in the locker room. As far as I know, he's never even been in trouble. I mean, he's on the Texans now, which absolutely sucks. Still remember the Super Bowl when he was on the Patriots and he got literally killed. Might have been the one in US Bank. I don't remember, but I just know that Brandon Cooks got absolutely popped in the helmet and he had to get taken out of the game. It was terrible. Alright, and up next we have got Marlon Mack. This is my boy. This is my OG boy. I have had an unhealthy, abnormal obsession with Marlon Mack since he got drafted out of South Florida like 4 years ago. Marlon Mack is the Byron Buxton of the NFL for me. You know that they're good. You know all the skill that they possess, but they just can't fucking stay healthy. Marlon Mack is fast, he is physical, he is elusive, and he can catch the ball if he needs to. He is a complete package. Doesn't help the fact that this man just never gets any credit either. And another thing I like about Marlon Mack is that he's kind of big. He's like 6 feet tall. Okay, it seems like most of the running backs in the NFL right now are like 5'9" and 5'10". 2 inches might not sound like a lot, but it kind of is when you're moving and doing what Marlon Mack is. I know Mack broke 1,000 yards in 2019. He might have done it in 2018 too. If he didn't do it, he had to have been damn close to it. I was really hoping he would sign with the Bills in the offseason, but the Colts extended him, which is fine, but we know his production is just going to plummet because Jonathan Taylor is clearly the number 1. But in a sense, it is kind of nice knowing that if Jonathan Taylor gets hurt, they have a really good backup to take over. And then I think they also still have Nyheim Hines too. Not saying anything bad about him. He's a great receiving back. But for right now, we're focusing on Marlon Mack, and he is underrated. Alright, and up next we have DJ Chark. Dude, people love to hate DJ Chark. Now, I don't know why DJ was absent this year, but he did miss like 4 games. He did really good when he played, but he wasn't present for all of them. However, back in 2019, he broke 1,000 yards and had like 8 or 9 touchdowns. That's pretty good. Especially having Gardner Minshew as your quarterback, being on literally the worst rostered team in the NFL. But yeah, he's bad, right? I don't care who you are. If you're able to put up decent numbers in Jacksonville over the last 2 years, you're a superstar. Please hang in there, James Robinson and DJ Chark. Let me assure you that help is on the way. And no, not Tim Tebow. I'm talking about Trevor. I don't think the Jags will go above 500 like somebody asked me yesterday. That just seems completely impossible. But I do think the Jags will win like 4 games possibly. Which might not sound like a lot, but guys, that's a huge improvement from last year. And like I said, Jacksonville, be patient. 2 to 3 years, you guys are going to be good. And that seems a lot longer away than it actually is. Alright, and up next we got Ronald Jones. As a running back, this man is very good. He can't catch a ball to save his life. I am aware of that. And that might be honestly why he gets the constant hate that he does, because he gets a lot of shit. But Ronald Jones, if you look at him as a running back, he's actually really good. Yeah, this year he had 978 yards. He averaged 5.1 yards a carry and had 7 touchdowns, all off of 192 attempts. Okay, that's good. That's a lot better than people are saying about him. Personally, what I think the Buccaneers need to do with that running situation, especially that they just got Gio Bernard now, obviously any passing plays is going to go to Gio. Any outside runs need to go to Ronald Jones, and anything right up the gut should go to Leonard Fournette. You have an unbelievably good running staff right there. And no, I'm not calling Ronald Jones a top 10 running back. That would just be ridiculous, but I do think he is far better than anyone has ever given him credit for. Alright, and again guys, I think I saved the best for last. We have Tony Pollard. Okay, Tony Pollard never really gets to play because he is Ezekiel Elliott's backup. Unfortunately, and I think Dallas fans might be starting to notice that Pollard could be better than Zeke. Pollard doesn't always get to play, but when he does play, this guy makes his presence known. I've always wondered that. Why aren't teams targeting him? Why is he not given more chances? He's proven time and time again that he can play. Zeke is great. He still is great, but he's not the old Zeke anymore. And here's what's interesting about Tony Pollard. I'm going to just read this to you guys because it is from an article. It literally says right here, and this is as of March 19th, 2021. So pretty recently, Tony Pollard is in the top 5 in several key areas used to measure how effective a running back is in the NFL. Doesn't explain which areas exactly, but it does say that Tony Pollard's yard after contact per attempt is comparable to Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb. If Tony Pollard is putting up the same yards after contact that Derrick Henry is, that means there's something really wrong there, because Tony Pollard is 40 pounds lighter than Derrick Henry and about 4 inches shorter than him. Hard to call someone underrated who has hardly ever played, but looking at his numbers, watching him play, and reading what other people's expectations are of Tony Pollard, the man deserves a lot more credit than he's currently being given. He is underrated. Alright guys, and that is going to be all for this top 10 video. I can do another top 10 of underrated, I could do a top 10 of overrated, I could do a top 10 of a lot of things. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share it, tell your friends, do what you gotta do. Also guys, don't forget your Q&A questions. You can submit them at me using the hashtag WyattzWorld Q&A on Twitter. I'll be picking about 10 to 20 questions to answer sometime next week. With that being said guys, I hope you all have a terrific rest of your day, and as always, I will see you in the next video.